Well, good evening. How's everyone? I have a microphone. Do I need to use it? If I do, I'll grab it. I prefer not to, but if anyone can't hear, I'd be more than happy to grab it. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Randall Gary. For those that do not know me, I'm the superintendent of Lexington School District 3, the proud superintendent here. It's an outstanding district. I started my 4th year in this role, and I was the assistant superintendent before then. So it's an outstanding district. I've lived here for going on 4 years as well. I think this is a great school system. So we're going to chat up a little bit tonight about what's coming as far as the future is concerned. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about it. We want to make sure that you have the information that you need to make an informed decision. We do have a couple of our board members here, Cheryl Burgess and Mr. Billy Berry, and I appreciate them coming as well. And as well as some of our staff. I want to introduce them all at this time. So first, I want to start out with this picture here. This is a picture, and some people have heard this story 7 times. So they're going to hear it about 10 more times. But this is my new favorite picture. I always have a favorite picture. And this picture is the day that our district, our Batesburg-Leesville Elementary School, won the Pell Medalist Finalist Award. We have a lot of great things going on in this district. We have for a very long time. We've been able to add on to those things in the past few years. But I think it's kind of a hidden gem. A lot of people did not know the great things that we were doing for kids. And winning this award was an opportunity to really put our school, our district, and community on display. This was the day they announced the winners. And I was there in that cafeteria, fingers crossed, toes crossed, probably legs crossed, along with a lot of other people, because it was a live announcement that was streamed on television, so you didn't know until they announced it. And when we won, this was the reaction of the kids. They were so excited. So I showed that picture to move to my next slide, which is this. At the beginning of the year, in our opening in service, I challenged our teachers. I said, hey, I have made a Panther promise. My promise to the students, to the community, that every decision I make will be made with the best interest of our students in mind. So when I look back at this picture reminds me why I do what I do. I can tell you, if you ever have a tough day, you get a little frustrated, yada, 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 walk through the primary school or elementary school, especially kindergarten class where I was today. When some kid you don't know comes and gives you a hug, how it just brightens up your day. To have the opportunity to do that, I absolutely love. So with my Panther promise, I think it is my responsibility to make sure that we offer the best education for our students. Now, with that said, many of you know a lot about our district, but this is just a few of the programs and things that are happening across our district that we're just proud of. From our Pebbles Finest, what we're doing in our Montessori, one-to-one technology, which is sometimes a rarity, especially in districts our size. Our STEM program, our science, technology, engineering, and math. And if I use too many acronyms, please excuse me, educators, we do that sometimes. So our CATE, career and technology education, so students can come out of our schools work ready. Yes, we're trying to prepare students to go into college, but we do realize that that may not be the choice every student wants or even needs. There are outstanding careers out there. We want our students ready when they leave high school, hopefully to be able to walk through some of those doors. And also a Montessori, and of course, a School of Journalism and Family Science. So this is kind of our agenda. We have an agenda for our meeting. I'm going to start our team a little bit about our 2016 facility study, which kind of talks to how we got to where we are now. I'm going to talk about the progress we made thus far as addressing the needs in that study. Then we're going to talk about our next steps. So the study in 2016, when we knew there were some facility needs that we needed, we went and contracted with a engineer/architect to come in and go through all of our studies. We know we needed a plan, a long-term plan. We didn't want to piecemeal here, fix here, piecemeal here, but what did we need to do long-term, and what was going to be the price tag and what that might look like? Well, in November 2016 at our middle school, we had a board meeting where we shared the outcome of these findings. And we're going to look at some of those things today. All right? What are some of the progress we made thus far in those findings? One of the biggest things that came out loud and clear to us was safety. There was a time just over a year ago where you could walk into any of our schools, all of our schools, and walk right down the hallway, kind of like you did today. But you walk through those doors that we've since built that are closed during the day. Unfortunately, times have changed. Well, it's good that times have changed, but there have been some negative things over the past 40, 45 years when these schools were built. life has changed, the world we live in has changed. And we know now, just having a school where you can just walk through without having to stop, being buzzed in, showing your ID and your business there and buzz beyond that point is very important. So we were able to come based upon that study and say, hey, these are what we need to outline, starting with our safety. At our primary, elementary, and middle school, we were able to go and install those new entrances. If you didn't pay much attention, you can see them on the way out at this school, but they're also at our other 3 schools, with the exception of our high school. Also, we knew we needed to, with the ages of the schools, even with the elementary and the middle, that are right at 20 years old now, it's time for new roofs, new HVAC, and those things are not cheap. So the board made a decision along to use some of our 8% money. And let me tell you what that is. 8% is the amount of money, 8% of the assessed value of the community is the most that the Board of Trustees can borrow without going to you, the taxpayers. So if I use the term 8%, that's what it means. Anything beyond that, we must go to the voters for permission to borrow that money. So with that said, we were able to use that money also to do some of the roofing work and HVAC that we're currently doing at our middle school and plan to do our elementary school as well. In addition to a grant of just over $1 million from the State Department on either last year or towards the end of the previous year that we got to assist with that. And next steps, there were some things that came back on that study that we knew we were not financially able to do without going to you, the taxpayer. Work that needed to be done in our primary school we are now, and the work at our high school. So we're going to talk about those sites, and that'll get us back to that facility study. So we're going to start with this location. This is where we are now, the primary school. When we look here, each of this slide is kind of talking about the site, the parking, inadequate parking. When you came in, there's one way onto this campus and one way out. That's really not a good thing. Schools that are built now at the State Department of Education, another acronym we use is OSF, which stands for the Office of School Facilities. They will not authorize the construction of a school now that only has one entrance in and one entrance out. They want to make sure you have a separate drive or entranceway for bus transportation. So you're not mixing buses with your car rider and carpool line. That's for safety. That also helps with deliveries that had come through the day. Lots of deliveries at school, especially in the cafeteria with milk and bread. Those types of things are coming in every day. Also, a dedicated loop for fire access to get around the school is important as well. This is a school, an aerial view of the school. And here on the side, I'll run through them, most of them relatively quickly. I won't run through them at the high school because a lot of them are the same. These schools, there's about 5 years difference in the age of these schools. Replacing the roofing and the insulation in this roofing. HVAC, the heating, venting, and air conditioning in schools. Upgrading the plumbing fixtures, LED light. A lot of these things that need to be done are things like lighting and HVAC that over time, we'll get some of that money back from the savings. Acoustical tiles, upgrades of technology. When this school or the high school was built, there were no computers in the school at that point in time. There might have been an electrical typewriter. That's what I call technology in school. I got to use an electric typewriter. There was one in the whole class. But as far as technology, there was no technology. But now we're in school, we're in a district where in grades 2 through 12, every student has a device. So imagine what that does to our infrastructure, to the need for electrical upgrades, to the need for Wi-Fi access. So keeping up with that. Also, added parking. You can see here our parking lot is very small. I don't know if we have any parents that are currently here, or if you were a parent here, if you came to a program or come to a program, it's very difficult to find parking. You could you definitely be parking on the grass, and probably this grassy area up here, which is the best place to park because of that big boulder that sticks out of the ground. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. Also, stacking lanes for parking. Even if you're not coming by here, if you pass by in the morning when school starts or in the afternoon, and I see some heads nodding, sometimes that line getting onto this campus goes back to our high school. And that really slows down traffic on 391, not just for people coming here, but for people that need to get by. And it does cause a safety issue as well. So we want to, in this plan, be able to take some of that traffic off of Highway 391 and Summerlin Avenue and stack it much better here. There's a practice here after school for loading students into cars that I don't like, but we do it out of necessity. Is we actually have 2 lanes of cars. Where we load the inside lane, those leave, we stop the cars, we have the students cross over, and we load the other one. Why don't I like it? Well, I prefer not to have those kids crossing. Our teachers have done an outstanding job. They're there to stop in traffic, and things have gone well. But if we get into a position where we can fix that, we would all feel a whole lot better about our safety of our students. And also relocating the administration to closer to those new secure entrances. If you know this school, when you come in to get to the main office, once you get through the doors, you walk down 8-10 steps, down the hall, around the corner, and we assume you're going to the office, which that's where you told us you were going. But now you're not even within sight. So to be able to bring that office from here to here is something that we want to address as well. Here are a few pictures of some of the things we talked about. Right here, you can see our park in the morning, and it doesn't get any better in the afternoon. If you look here, you can see these buses that are parked here. They all use that same driveway to get in. I think it was just last year where a car broke down in the carpool. Fortunately, it was in a place that we could push it out. Well, I wasn't here. I didn't push it. I would have. We were in a place where the people that were here came to the rescue and were able to push it out of the way. But if something happened and we needed the fire truck to be able to get onto this campus or the emergency vehicle at that time, it would have been very difficult for that to happen. Here's our main office area. But if you look all the way down the hall, those are the doors you enter. And when I say walking down the stairs, down the hallway, and around the corner to get to the office, to relocate that. And here's the media center. If you haven't seen it, you may get a chance to walk by tonight. Nice little media center, but it has no walls, okay? It was a very popular open classroom concept back in the 70s that was popular for about a year, it seems. Because a lot of the schools that went to that open concept realized, that might not be the best thing because noise does travel, and have gone back and kind of changed that. Once you get kids quiet in here and you get them focused, see, I've watched the movie Kindergarten Cop, and to me it is very difficult to get a group focused. So when you get them focused, let's keep them focused. So if somebody walks down with a side conversation down the hallway, or they're pulling a car with wheels and the squeaky wheel, it's going to be a disruption. So we can fix that as well. So how might we do these things? All right. Looking at this is kind of a bird's eye view with the conceptual design. It's conceptual because it's not finalized. But this is based upon our current needs and what we currently have and changes we know we need to make at this particular location. First of all, site circulation. This driveway currently stops here and comes here. Extend that driveway farther this way. And then it comes here and comes this direction. But to extend it beyond across here, to do that, that awning that we saw at the front needs to be turned horizontally. The awning currently comes straight out from the school. If we turn this horizontally, look at how many more cars we can pick up here, how many more students we can pick up as carpool. By extending that loop, we get more off the highway. We extend it beyond the awning to this side, and we can pick up more students as well. A new media center. Our current media center is here. When this school was built, this school is the largest school population-wise, student enrollment-wise, in our district. So it wasn't built for the number of students here. So when you have something like your cafeteria, which we're in right now, and your enrollment has grown, it's difficult to get all those kids fed. And you can't do it all at one time, so what you do is you extend your feeding time. So someone may be eating a little earlier in the day you'd like them to eat lunch, or a little later in the day that you'd like to eat lunch, okay? So to be able to fix that by having a cafeteria that's built to accommodate the size, and a media center that's built to accommodate the enrollment in the school. A new administration area, I talked about that. PE area, we'll talk a little bit about that on our next slide, a little bit closer. Parking, and with these changes, we're gonna have a net gain in this school, about 6 classrooms. And all those aren't necessarily new, but we have, for example, we have a guidance counselor now that doesn't have an office, but uses a classroom. If we can get this guidance counselor into an office area with a conference room, that frees up another teaching space for our teachers. With this change from the outside, we're able to turn this awning around horizontally. It does change the outward facade of the school. So as opposed to having this awning coming out this way, the current one is not that high. It will go horizontally across the front. Be able to pick up more kids at one time, kind of soften up the facade with a little bit of natural look of the wood there. So it somewhat change the outside appearance of that school. Now, here, our current media center, we talked about changing this space. We would convert these to classrooms, and a smaller classroom here. That looks small, doesn't it? Well, there are needs for smaller classroom spaces. I went into a speech class actually today at this school in an area I know was not designed to be a speech class. Fortunately, there was one student in there with the teacher, but there's times there are 4 students in there. And I guess they call it an office. I don't think it was designed to be an office because it's a really small place. And it's crowded with 4 kids. But spaces like this would be able to accommodate those smaller caseloads where you don't get a full-size classroom and you have too many students for an office. If this is a new media center, where's the new? Here's a new media center that will be built new towards the rear of the school next to the new cafeteria. What becomes of this space? This space will become our multi-purpose room. We now have a multi-purpose room that I also walked in today, and I guess when I used to come, I didn't realize how small it was, but it looks about the size of maybe 2 classrooms or a classroom and a half, which is fine if this is a regular class, but when you're playing kickball and dodgeball and hula hoop and riding tricycles, which I did in that room, it's kind of hard to make a U-turn in that small area and have kids running. So this area could be converted to 2 multi-purpose rooms. Now there are 2 PE teachers at this school, but notice 1 multi-purpose room. The other teacher teaches behind this wall. The stage is now used to teach PE. Well, that's fine until kids come in the cafeteria and doors, we'll go through that. But also, if we want to have a program on that stage, we got to go and move the kickballs and the hula hoops and all that to get ready. Although he really does keep it relatively clean. I just walked up there. But you have to prepare that if you want to use that stage for anything. What would happen in here would be a partition that separates this room. And both sides of this room can be used for a multi-purpose room, both of which are much larger than our current multi-purpose room. So we would be capturing this space with a collapsible door that can open. So if we do need to have something like we're having tonight and we have a room full of people and use our stage, we can still bring them in here and still have access to the stage that will not be a PE classroom. Also, we have additional space here, new classroom here, new study classrooms here, and we have moved our main office area from here, turning that to art class to here, so we can access from the front. Also, we have we talked about guidance, the needs of students. The needs may not have changed, but schools do more to address the needs in the whole child now. In many regards, we try to be all things to the kids. You know, we have nurses, we have social workers, psychologists, guidance counselors, and those people need places to meet in privacy with our students. If you're standing back here in this courtyard and you look back towards here from the rear of the school, you'll be able to see on the right side here is your cafeteria, with your covered area here, where outside dining, you can choose to do so. This would be your media center. I know you've heard this several times, I gotta say it. That is not a tree in the media center. It looks like a tree, but that's the detail of the software. That is actually the reflection of this tree. Okay? So don't say they're building a school with a tree in the media center. No, that's not what's happening. Okay? All right. This obviously comes with a price tag for the renovations that need to be done at this school. For the safety renovations to accommodate the needs of our largest school. And that tag is almost $18 million. Now, if anyone in here has done anything or does anything as far as construction is concerned, you're aware that renovation costs always cost more than reconstruction costs, okay? And especially when you're tearing things out, you know, asbestos abatement and those types of things that really run that cost up. So we're going to come back to this number. We're going to talk about the financial impact. I don't want you to say, yeah, like that number didn't just happen. We're going to come back and we'll talk about that, okay? We'll move on to the high school. High school, obviously, a much bigger footprint than our primary school. Here, just the dates of construction, some of the different things that are located on there, athletics, football field, tennis courts, etc. In this school, a lot of these are the same. It was built about 5 years prior to the primary school, all right? We have, every student in that school has a device, Wi-Fi access, internet, being able to keep up with the infrastructure. One of the teachers asked us a presentation, if we do this, are our bathrooms going to be ADA compliant? I said, of course they will be, because right now they aren't. And it doesn't mean that we designed a school 40 some odd years ago that wasn't. The standards of that time, the school was compliant, but the compliance standards, or the codes I should say, changed so quickly. My ongoing joke is, before I finish this presentation, they may change again. So we need to be up to code, and once you spend over 50% of an assessed value in a building, according to the Office of School Facilities, they require that you bring that entire building up to code. So it's not like we can just piecemeal any parts of any building. So These are the things that need to be done here, academic wings. One of the biggest concerns is we talk about safety. I said earlier that we did new entrances at our primary, elementary, and middle school. Well, I left the high school out of that. And the reason is this. The things that we did at those schools are designed differently. So there's one entrance. All of you came through the same door. I didn't worry about anybody coming through any other door at that school, either after hours or during the day, because those doors are locked. And you can access anywhere in this building without leaving. That is obviously not the case at this school. This building, we have kids here, our main academic building, that take courses here. This is our career and technology building, career and technology education building. They take courses here. This is our fine arts center. There's also a band room and a course room where kids take courses every day, and the gym. So between these four buildings, kids are outside every day by necessity. Not necessarily by choice, but to get from one class to another, they have to go outside. Well, that goes back to our safety concern. There really isn't but one way to address that aspect of the concern. Some people say, well, why don't you just secure all the doors? Well, there are 22 entrances and exits in this building here. Now, are they all open during the day? Not all of them, but probably at least over half of them are. And it's because they have to. I mean, visitors are coming here, students are leaving here to get here, here to get here. They're going from this building to this building. They have to go outside to get to this classroom. They're going to the gym doors are open, these doors at the fine arts center. So there's several doors that have to be open. So as part of whatever we do, we need to make sure we address that safety concern as well. Here's some pictures. If I'm this top left picture, if I am standing in that main academic building right here and look towards that career and technology building, that's the distance, that's the distance that a student must walk to get from one building to another. Well, the good thing, this particular one, there's an awning, but that can protect them against rain. But that doesn't protect them. There's a little street over here to the right that goes to our career and technology education building that anybody can access at any time of the day. If we're fortunate, somebody might drive back there and only give a kid lunch money. If we're unfortunate, they can access our building for reasons that are just not good reasons for them to be on our campus. Here is the main office. You come in this door. We do have that desk there, but the lady that works at that desk, she does a very good job. But we know she's not going to tackle anyone that wants to go through that door. So we do, and we don't expect it to. So we do need to have some secure entrance so no one can get to the rest of the school. This is one of our science labs. That's not a place that I think in our district we can say we're proud to have our kids have to deal with. We are providing a 21st century education, but there are limitations. In a meeting, many of you know we have our dual enrollment, we're teaching college courses, and it was said that some of the courses that the college was offering could not be offered at our school because we didn't have the facilities to sustain it. Well, I can tell you that should never be the case. I'd have to believe that anything that our kids need to have to get either their diploma or the associate's degree that some of our kids are getting or the advanced placement courses, any limitation should be based upon our facilities because I think our kids deserve more. They deserve better. I don't know how many of you remember these. I remember when I was in high school, you put your foot on it and most of the time the water came out. Well, most of the time it doesn't now. But it just shows the age of these. This is the parking concern here. Same thing as before. After looking at this, the options we had, the board had a couple of options, about 3 options to look at. One was they could renovate the existing campus using mobile cottages staged throughout the campus. Mobile cottages are fancy words for portables. They come in, put portables out, they tear the building down, the kids go into the portable. The thing about the portables, to get the number that we need, the price tag ran about $1.8 million. And in 2 years, those portables are gone, along with that 1.8. So we prefer not to take that route. I'll skip down to the third one so we can get it out of the way. Design and construct a new campus on a new site. We didn't want to do that because this price was skyrocket. You got to go purchase land. Then you got to build a football stadium, got a baseball field, softball practice. All those we already had. So we did not need to go to a new site. So the choice we looked at was option 2, construct a new high school on an existing site, utilizing phased demolition and construction. And what that means is, the footprint here is big enough to build most of the new school. So phase 1 would be everything that is housed in this building, we would build here. first, while kids are still in school, with construction fencing. Once everything in this building is built in the first phase of this building, students move from this building into this building goes away, and they continue to build the remainder of this building on that footprint. Then students that are housed here in this K building, the gym, and who are taking band and chorus can all move into this building. We'll take a look at that. What that does is our students now do not need to leave that building during the school day. Now we can have the secure entrances we talked about in our other schools. Built with initial capacity of at least 650 students, a core capacity of 800, meaning our big spaces like our cafeteria, our media center, or our innovation studio we call it. Correct problem with pipe with parking and site circulation, a new gym entrance, Hall of Fame lobby, a lecture hall, and a place that we built here, we've just taken away where our band practices. So at the rear, we're going to have a new band practice field and a place for soccer that is now practicing down to Lifelong Learning Center if you saw them in the spring. Moving in, I'll take you briefly through what the conceptual design of that building could look like. When you enter here, you have your office spaces here with your guidance, your principal, your bookkeeper, secretary, those types of people. Over here, you have the left side of your entrance is your innovation studio or your media center, okay? You go through to a common with 2 hallways. This building here is 2 floors. This part of the building is 2 floors. Down here, you have classrooms here, you have classrooms here. You move down here to what is the parent pavilion, fancy word for cafeteria, okay? What I really like about this now is this courtyard in the middle. This courtyard gives the students an opportunity, or teachers an opportunity to go outside for an outdoor classroom. They can also go outside to eat lunch. Right now, students go outside to eat lunch, but they eat back, when they go outside, they're back behind that area where I showed that long awning, where people can come by and drive by now. This gives an opportunity for them to come sit out here. And this, the building is on all sides, but here you have gates. Those gates can't be opened from the outside, but they have panic bars for the inside for emergency egress if you need to leave for fire safety. Moving down the hallway here, these buildings here, we tend to call them our CATE buildings, our career and technology education. So those that are housed in that existing CATE building would move in as we look to repurpose that building for some other use. And then our gym is right here. You can see our gym here along with an auxiliary gym. Why do we need an auxiliary gym? I don't know, maybe somewhere they are, but it's rare that they're building a new high school with 1 gymnasium because you needed one. If you don't need it for PE, you need it for all of the spring sports, even the winter sports. Just at our 2A high school, we have 4 basketball teams that need to practice at the same time. Varsity and JV boys, varsity and JV girls. Well, if each one wants to practice for an hour and 45 minutes after school, you can imagine what time the last group gets the opportunity to practice. And then it would not surprise me in the years if other sports are introduced. I know I've heard talk of the interest possibly in wrestling. Some schools have lacrosse, and to be able to have a small auxiliary gym to have those types of events while something else may be going on the inside. From the outside, conceptually, it has a new facade to Summerlin Avenue because this is going to be a lot closer to the road. Right here, it's going to be a top entry gym. When you go into this gymnasium, so instead of going in at floor level where the action is, which is another safety hazard, there's a fast break and the ball goes out of bounds and hits a spectator and you get run over. Now you're entering from the top level, kind of like at our football stadium. When you're upstairs on the home side, when you walk in, you actually go down. That keeps you off the ground level. But also on that first floor, you have locker rooms so the athletes can come from the first floor. Skip a slide. No, I did not. All right. Then back just to the second floor. The only difference between the first and the second floor of this building is we have some science classes up here. Science classes are bigger because of the lab experiments that are going on in there, access to gas and those types of things. Construction start dates. Summer of 2019 for both schools. One project does not have to be completed before the next project begins. So if this is approved in November, we'll be looking to break ground initially in this upcoming summer of 2019 with the first graduating class to be 2022, which my daughter is not excited because she'll be going 2021. So. Cost of this. About 2 weeks ago now, we reached out to get some updated numbers on renovation costs. because the numbers we have are 2 years old. We knew there'd been some escalation, some inflation since then. To renovate this facility would be right about $67.5 million in the high school. And some say that seems high, but just think at this school, it's going to cost $18 million. And we're talking about 4 different buildings that have to be touched there. And I do want to say this, because I didn't say it and somebody asked. Somebody asked, will we tearing down the Fine Arts Center? And that answer is no. We are not tearing down the Fine Arts Center. In fact, what we want to do at that Fine Arts Center is renovate the existing horse and band rooms to become dressing rooms. If you've used that facility, you know we're definitely short on dressing room space. So I want to make sure I say that for the record. So that's $67.5 million to do the renovations at the school, that if they are done, there's one thing we still have not corrected, and that's our concern about safety. I can speak with Pam. I drop my kid off to school every day. I say, good luck in school, do your best, get a good grade, and I want to get a good education. Now, I don't say it, but I definitely want to come home safely. And I think any parent will put safety over the education of our students. So even if we were to renovate that high school for a smaller price tag than new construction, we can see we still have 4 different buildings where kids are going. The new price tag on that building is $71 million. So the board had to look at these 2 numbers and say, hey, if we did one or the other, which is going to be the best use that they felt of taxpayer money? Well, that's not a whole lot cheaper, but it also doesn't solve all of the concerns. The financial impact to the voters, what does that mean? Well, if you're a homeowner, it's going to come out, and I want to say this too, because in Lexington County, I don't know if you paid attention, take a look at your tax notices, because you do get credits, especially homeowners, definitely get credits. You get a operations credit for the operations of school, and taxpayers, homeowners, I'm sorry, don't pay for school operations. Now, 388, a few years ago, business owners know what happened there. It put that cost back on them, and they're not smiling about that, but it's a credit that homeowners get. Also, there's a penny sales tax in Lexington County that goes to debt services or capital improvements that helps fund this. So, unfortunately, that's not something that Saluda County gets, but I do want to be clear that the increase to your tax bill, regardless of the county, because we maxed out that penny, would be the same. So it comes out to about 78 cents a day. What does that mean on a $100,000 home? You do the math. It's about $280 a year. About $280 a year. I think of it this way. I bring my daughter, drop her off. She goes in, gets a good education. She's taking college courses that she's not paying for. She gets college books that she doesn't have to pay for, which sometimes cost as much as college courses they seem to be. She's on a Chromebook. It's kind of like me driving in each day, giving the principal a dollar bill and getting change back. I think that's a pretty big deal, okay? Now, don't want to hide this. Rental properties, businesses, the other 6%, that increase is going to be a little higher for your capital. It's going to be about $1.17 a day. I don't remember over $100,000, you may know that, but what it would be. But, and that's per 100,000. If you got a $200,000 home, you multiply this by 2, which is why we use that number. And because I've forgotten to say this a few times, we added this presentation, we're talking about a 25-year bond to make that happen. So, is it a lot that we're asking for our taxpayers? It is. It is. But it's a commitment. And I guess the question I ask is, what better legacy is there to leave this group of kids? Because they are our future. Now, when I look at this picture, I see a bunch of kids that are very excited. But I see kids that are going to benefit from this system. I see doctors, lawyers, teachers, nurses, welders. There might be a superintendent up there. Who knows? Okay? I think we owe it to our students. So at this point in time, I'm going to open the floor for questions. I have a few people here on my staff that if I don't have the best answer for you, they'll help me out. The floor is yours. Yes, sir.
So I've got a general question. First and foremost, why was the decision made to tackle both high school projects and primary school projects simultaneously under one bond, rather than focusing efforts on each facility individually?
Okay. Well, one thing we didn't want to have, and if I'm not giving the answer the board thinks is right, let me know. But one, if we went out to get a bond now, The question that people want to know, are you going to take care of our needs right now? Or are you going to come back in 5 years and try to pass another referendum? And we know that the needs are there right now at both schools. And if we wait, we saw what happened. Well, you can see, I can tell you the escalation between our renovation numbers in 2016 and what it costs to do those renovations now. I think it increased about $4 or $5 million. So it would cost more to the taxpayer. Now, this is a 25-year bond, but as our financial advisors do, the opportunities, like on your house, to refinance, get a low rate that falls to our advantage, definitely take advantage of that as well.
If you had half the money, could you make it safe, fix the roofs? The goal is to get our kids education, right?
Yes.
And the pretty part don't really matter when they get out here. What could you do with half the money? I mean, those plumbing things, I've lived in a house 25 years, I ain't tore my house down, I just fixed the plumbing.
Well, what could we do with half? We couldn't fix all the things we needed. You saw the renovation.
The roof needs to be fixed, need another other company.
Yeah, we need roofs on both of those
You
schools.
just need this.
We need HVAC at both of those schools. The renovation just to this school is $18 million. You can see that footprint at the high school, where the renovation will be there.
What do you need to make it safe? The goal is to get our kids education. Now, support that, I support the teachers.
Okay.
Some of this, how much is that for $100,000 house?
How much is it?
Yeah,
A year, about $280.
so $200,000, $500.
Yes.
Where are people retired, where is it coming from?
Well, I mean, one thing, which why I say, please check your current bills. Because if you look at those credits, I think what people will find in our district, that they are really not paying a lot of money for school taxes. I think in their minds they are. I pulled several tax bills just to get a general idea. Most people that are in town, in many county, are probably paying less than 3% homeowners, or maybe as much as 5% for schools. And up until a year ago, they were paying nothing. If you go back beyond 2017 and look at what taxpayers were paying for our schools, it was zero. And I think a lot of that had to do with some good decisions that the board, prior to me coming on board, made with our money. Also, come March, our district will be debt-free. So the timing of this works good. And I say that just to speak to the financial decisions that the board has made, will be debt-free. What is supposed to come? One thing I recommend is that one, they look at it and see what they're paying. Two, one thing, I don't know if you or whoever's taking advantage of the homestead exemption, I don't know if everybody is. And that's something, if you have a chance to get a break on taxes, nobody calls you and says, "Price, I can save you some money in your taxes." Once you're age 65, or if you're disabled, permanently disabled, or blind, your first $50,000 on your house, you don't pay taxes. And there are people even now that some paying 4%. Their total tax bill, I saw today, a total tax bill on a house of $100,000 was 64 cents a year. A year. That's not just school taxes. That was everything. So when I spoke before, I said I'd be more than happy, it was not about this, to have a conversation with me and you or our finance director, look at your bill individually, and we can kind of talk through it.
I don't think anybody's against education or teachers, but we all homeowners, we got a budget.
Yes.
We can't go out and put the big lights, do all this stuff we don't need. Is that gonna make my child any smarter to have my grandchildren?
If a school is pretty or not pretty, may not make the child smart. But I tell you, go into a school that's safe and a school that's aesthetically pleasing does a lot for the morale of our kids. Do we have to have a school like some of our neighboring districts have? We don't have to do that. But there's not anything that we feel is that so far in this conceptual design that's a bunch of fluff. Does it look nice? Well, I hope so, because it's new. Anything's new is generally going to look nice. But this is not that, to me, I think it's a shame and it was Midlands Tech to say that we can't teach these particular courses to you at your school because your school can't accommodate those needs.
You need to do.
I think we do.
But what really looks nice is when these kids graduate and go get a job. That's what really looks good.
It does. And we know we're offering the coursework for them, but because of our facility, we're actually limited on some of the courses that we can offer. Now you ask, what does it take to make this safe? What it takes is a building where kids do not have to leave during the day. That's one of the things it takes to go from different places on campus. That's one of the things it takes. It takes training from individuals, from SROs. We have a good relationship with our law enforcement, to train the teachers, to doing drills, to make them as safe as possible. We do those things now. Yes, sir.
How did we arrive at the figures for the two projects? You know, I've heard you say many times that we had architects involved and that we did studies to determine our needs, but were those architects constrained in any way by the amount of money they could spend on the project? Or is the $90 million a multiple quote, multiple construction companies have looked at that figure to validate that that's even enough? Or is that 2x what we really need to spend? I mean, there's ways to cut costs or be, you know, elegant or.
It's got a bidding process then.
Excuse me?
It's gonna be a bidding process.
So this one-
Cheaper, should come in more.
Well, no, did we get multiple quotes? No. And with the ethics laws and with, not ethics laws, but when you're looking at professional services, you don't have to do that. But what we we went out and interviewed several architect firms. They presented plans such as writing. For the first round, they came in and met with our board, and when the board was able to ask questions after their presentations and get feedback from them, and once it narrowed it down to the architect and construction company that they thought could best suit our needs based on several factors, based on the recommendations, based upon their past work, based upon their current workload, their insurance, and their ability to do the work, the board came to the decision on these two companies. I think you've probably seen the names of them. You can check their work across the state. Very well-respected companies, have done great work, and I put a lot of confidence in their decisions.
I have a part B and C to that question, if I could.
Go right ahead.
Kind of part B to that question is, so the proposed design for the high school is a two-story facility. You know, with a two-story facility, you have added cost of elevators to make sure the facility is handicap accessible. And you also have the negative security impact of it being a two-story facility, thus taking longer to evacuate in a fire emergency or a earthquake or anything like that. It's a more timely event. Was there any consideration put into just the impact of that design decision in the proposal?
See, I would beg to differ. I've worked in a two-story facility, and that's why we practice these types of drills all the time. It doesn't take very long. The truth is, we can evacuate our building, whether it's one floor or two floors, typically a whole lot faster than it takes it to burn. I had a conversation with our chief of the fire department out when they had the supervised burning at the back to school, what's the thing they had, the Lexington County Night Out. And we had a conversation about this. And one of the things he talked about is, it's not really imperative that schools have sprinkler systems because it takes so long for a school to burn. If I threw some accelerant on the floor right now and threw a match and left and called 911, chances are, unless I douse this whole building, they will get here before it gets out because of how schools are made. They're not carpeted schools. There's certain things we can't have in it, like bean bags and those types of things that are extremely flammable. I worked in a two-story building, and I knew we'd be able to, I knew down to, I don't remember, but down to about how many seconds it took from the pulling of that alarm to get out. When you talk about the response time, I think that we have greatly decreased our response time. We had a parent speak, well, you were actually there at our first presentation at the high school, and she talked about her child who needed to have medical attention because she had a EpiPen that she had to carry with her because she was so far away from the main office. So what we've done by bringing this footprint closer together, we've actually cut down the response time for our SRO, for our nurse, and for our administrators.
But you've also put everyone in a much smaller bucket. Where you have pockets of children now, you've now brought them all into one tighter, more confined, more controllable area from a negative perspective. But
well, I don't think we have. And I'd say this. We brought them into a more, one building as opposed to four. But what we have done by doing that is we've created the need to go outside multiple times during the school day. I think we provided a safer environment for them by doing that. Now, you may differ, but I would much rather my child be in that building all day, with the exception of maybe PE, or if they're building a house, we're gonna still allow those types of things to go on. But just the class change every day that is not a supervised or instructional environment, I think we've done a great job. And as far as the cost is concerned, we have greatly reduced the footprint of that building as well. There's not gonna be as much grading and those types of things that need to happen. The cost of an elevator in a building is minimal. It's really a drop in the bucket compared to what it's gonna cost to build this. I mean, I had heard a quote a long time ago, $1 million. I said, $1 million? And someone said, whoever told you that made that up. That's not even, you can get for a fraction of that. So the cost of an elevator is gonna be small compared to the cost of having to go all the way down to the opposite end of that career technology building to get a kid because we couldn't respond quickly.
Pennies made dollar. You did hit on the grading, and that's my C part of this question.
Okay.
Have there been considerations in the budget and the estimated cost here for the fact that the high school is on a rock shelf and that there are large boulders that could require blasting? You alluded to the boulders here in the parking lot
Yes.
here. You know,
The engineers are very aware of
a
that.
lot of money to move.
The engineers are aware of that. They've actually visited all of our facilities. They've gotten topographical information. And as they move further into that, and it's not but so much we want to pay them to do, because this may not pass. So once this passes, we'll go. And they're always going to give us conservative numbers. And I can tell you, no, this is not 2x what we need to do this project. And I think some people are saying, oh, $90 million for a high school. Well, we're not spending $90 million on a high school. We're spending 72 on the high school, 18 on the primary. And I look at a school that's being built up in Spartanburg. It is a bigger school, but they're at 150 million. That's a big difference. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm full of questions tonight, I apologize.
He's a Williamson kid.
So I was reading through some of the frequently asked questions documentation you guys put on the website. And one of the things that was mentioned there was the project would be completed using construction management at risk.
Yes.
Basically, the contractor, and someone correct me if I'm wrong here, the contractor gets the project total and has to make it happen. They don't have to, come under budget, they just have to perform with the budget they're given. Is there any concern that with the comparisons to a VC summer project that the contractor may not be able to provide, and what protections are in place for the district and the taxpayers should the contractor not be able to finish the facility?
Well, that's the good thing about a CM at risk, because they give us a guaranteed maximum price. So if it costs $112 million, they've got to eat that. So they got to make sure they give us the quality project that they guaranteed us within that budget. And if it comes out below that, it's also written that the district gets a savings in the money. So I would love to say we pass a bond referendum that says up to $90 million. But at the end, if we spend 82, I think that's a very good day.
Yep. I got one last question. So in that same document, there was a statement made about the language that was going to be on the question, and I just want to clarify my understanding. The language on that question says something along the lines of the school district be empowered to issue at one time or from time to time general obligation bonds of the school district in principal amount not exceeding $90 million. So just to clarify that statement, we're voting to say the district has the opportunity at one time for a maximum of $90 million, not that we're giving you guys permission every year from now on to fire up another $90 million bond.
No, because it also says in that same question for the work to be done at that primary and that high school. So if we decide, you know what, let's build a child care center or something else, that's not in that question. Okay?
You can't change the scope.
I can't, that's what protects the taxpayer. They say they want $90 million, but it costs $80 million, and maybe they're gonna build a new district office. We can't do that, it's defined in that question.
That answers my question.
Any other questions?
Well, I'd just like to speak, kind of reiterate a little bit, as being a board member and a taxpayer. Obviously, I pay taxes, just like everybody else. Others will and do pay more taxes, depending on what you have, or what your businesses are. And, you know, we hated that back when 388 was passed, that it put a lot more of the burden on the businesses versus the typical homeowner. But what we've tried to look at is, and kind of going back to some of the questions that Mr. Price had, was why can't we spend half of this and fix some of this and move on and not be real pretty and do some of the other nice landscaping and things that we've done? You know, kind of the way we've looked at it is, sooner or later, you're gonna be revisiting it. And you're gonna be having to do more things and bring things up to grade versus things that you might not have done and just going in and doing some things halfway. Obviously, it's gonna cost you more. And so when we were looking at this, we were looking at doing what we could do to provide our kids the best education they could have. I wish some of us, a lot of us, there's been some time to get to come in and look at our schools. And our folks have done a great job of making our schools look good, and they're very functional, you know. But if some of you had gone in our science lab and zeroed in on some of these things that we had, they were so antiquated. I was really embarrassed for people to come in and see what we had. And we're trying to partner with like Saluda County, like right now, I think we are moving forward with the welding course that we will provide here, that our neighbors are going to come in with us, that we're going to be able to have together for both schools. But just looking at down the road and looking at what the costs are and looking at when this school was built and the things that we need to have, the infrastructure we need to have to go along with the things that we're wanting to do. Yes, we could do without making it look as good on the outside, but I just want to tell you, when you walk into a place and you see no shrubbery and it just looks like a solid building, and you go in, you kind of go in there with your head down, like, and I hate to use the word prison, but you're going into it. But when I drive up and I see the shrubbery on the outside and how the building looks on the outside, then that makes me think that the people on the inside feel good about what they're doing. When I drive up and I see that, it makes me feel good just in the time I walked over. Is there a cost? Heck yeah, there's going to be a cost. And it will be up to the taxpayers to make that decision. But you see in our neighboring communities, and I know we're not in the big district that's right next to us, the taxpayers there may not have to pay it or don't have to pay as much because they have so many more taxpayers. So when they go do a $9 million project like this, it's nothing to mountain, $30 to $40 a homeowner maybe.
The increase, but personally right now, on their capital expenses, their millage is higher than ours. And when I had that, when you were talking, one of our employees that lives over there shook her head and said, no, because she is compared her tax bill to ours.
But I want to tell you something else. Even though some people say our community is not growing, it is. All you got to do is go get out in the car. And I don't know what's the sign of getting old, but on Sunday afternoons, my wife and I get in the car and we ride around. And we look. And I see the things that are going on. And it makes me feel good. Housing. We got several projects going on right now.
Mr. Berry, there are 14, as of August, there were 14 building permits from the first of the year to August in this year for new housing. That in the last 3 years, there were only 22.
Well, my son bought a home in Summer 2 years ago. And where he lives, and I think it's called Vineyard, I think that's the newest section. If any of you don't have anything to do in an afternoon or on Sunday, go ride back in there. I think there has been, I counted Sunday, there's been 12 new homes built in there, and there's more being built now.
7.
And when people come into this community to live, I'm going to tell you what the first thing they're going to do. They're going to ride by and see what your schools look like. Now, you might not be doing a good job. I think we're doing a heck of a job here. But they ride by and see the building looks good, they think you got a good school. You know, and it is a shame that we have areas in South Carolina that they don't have the schools and have the opportunities we have here. All kids need to have the same thing. But one of my 2 children decided to move back here and is kind of going into business in this community. And this is where he wants to live, where he wants to raise his family. And I hope that I'm going to live long enough to see some of that. And I hope that we can look at this from a positive standpoint and not a negative about what our future is going to be. And I hope, and we've got some business owners in here, Wiz, he's going to have to pay taxes. He's going to have to pay more taxes.
It's gonna pay 2% more to eat in town now.
And you know what? And you know what? I would just as soon get in my car and drive the Whizzes to go eat my dinner at night than to go over to Lexington and pay it over there, and they're getting all the rewards from it.
And you do.
And I get good food.
And a lot of it.
And a lot of it. And if I don't like it, all I gotta do is go tell Wiz it didn't taste right, and he's gonna bring me another.
But you're right about the high school, about any school, that people that want to move here and bring their kids here, they have to, the first thing they do is drive by their schools. And they have to have a good impression, and then they'll look in further.
This school looks good,
You're right.
but you ride by the middle school and elementary school, which is more visible. I think it was last year, maybe it's been the year before, especially when the safety concerns came in, we talked about not being able to see the primary school. So we made a decision, we need to get out here and get this foliage, all this stuff cleaned out where you can see the school. Now you drive by, it's like, golly, that's a nice looking school. But, you know, my wife taught PE for a large number of years at the elementary school. And she has had to share a gym, and she has had to share a room. And I've been over here when my children were over at this school and seeing that Miss Bobmite was teaching the PE up there on that stage, and they were in here trying to eat. It's gonna be a sacrifice. I'm getting close to retiring too. It's gonna be a sacrifice on my part too. But I would like to see it that when I do retire and I can come back, that my children have the same opportunities that maybe somebody right down the road is having, and be proud of it. And is there a price tag? It is. It is a price tag. And I hope people will look at it as far as what we're doing for the future for our children. Because I'm hoping, as I told my son, because the umbilical cord has not been cut, and he's 25 years old and married.
And you still pay for his dinner.
That's right.
No, you're right.
But I'm hoping one day that he's gonna have a successful business in this community, and he's gonna want his kids to stay here and go to school here and not go somewhere else. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, and I guess because I was born and raised here, and I drive 75 miles one way to work every day in Allendale County. And in January this year, I've been doing it 41 years. I stayed here for a reason. And that's because I love my community. It is a village. And I know if there's something going on with my child, there's probably going to be somebody calling me, letting me know what's going on.
And 17 million is not bad, because Wiz is already at 10 million for the two buildings downtown Batesburg. And that's a whole other
And we're only
subject.
about a quarter of the way through. So can we get a bond referendum?
So don't even go there.
That bowling alley just
May I
killed
ask
me.
though, who is this? Are you,
You got that
He don't belong in these
do you have
parts.
like a lawyer, architect, construction?
I'm the financial advisor.
Ah, you're the bean.
Oh, good, you need to come over and talk.
Yeah, you're the one.
We need you downtown Pittsburgh.
When the questions get real tough and I don't know the answers between he and my finance director, I call one of
But,
them.
you know, I just,
There's your guy.
you got corner him later.
There's
I tried to corner him last time. and he
You
ran
did?
away.
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
say this about the school district, yes. I've been here for 30 years, it's a long time. And I've been mayor for whatever I was, and I think for all the years, Batesburg Leaves has always got a bad rap. District 3's always got a bad rap. Every meeting I went to when I was mayor, it was bad rap. What I see happening, and I'm going to blow your head a little bit, but what I see happening with you and Miss Angie and what's the other old man thing? Smith fella? Yeah, him too. But what I see more of than what I saw with Gummy Bear and Dr. Floyd, I'm not talking bad about him. I'm a citizen. I'm not a mayor anymore. I can do it. But what I see is more interaction with your teachers. I see, and I follow everybody on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all the stuff I do that shows me that the morale in the school district in your 4 years is skyrocketed. And you mingle instead of sitting up there in the office and hoping, you know, everything's going well without checking. So I'm gonna say that this school and your administrative staff and all the teachers, of course, will give us a competitive edge against these big ones out there. And I think if you build it, they're gonna come. And we got something to be proud of because, like you said, look at the picture. So,
Well, first of all, thank you, and as I always do, I have a great team, I have a great board. You mentioned a few from our principals, our teachers, they do I didn't win this award, I promise you I didn't. But we tried to put the structures in place for our teachers and our administrators.
but if they didn't have the morale that they have, you know, if it was all, oh, we're gonna do, you know, that's not the way it is anymore.
I know why I'm eating lunch tomorrow.
I want to piggyback off what Billy said. It comes with a price, and we know that. But we have looked at this for 2 years. I mean, we have gone through numbers, we've gone through scenarios. We just didn't decide last week, oh, we want to throw a bond referendum. I mean, we've really, looked at the numbers, tried to study, and just tried to decide what's going to be best for the taxpayers and how you're going to get the most bang for your buck.
Well, you wait a couple more years, it's gonna be $10 million more.
What was the dollar amount from the original facility study? When they came in and gave the board, wasn't it $140, $150 million, everything that needed to be done?
Yeah.
It was much, much larger than 90 million. It was a
Yeah.
huge number.
Yeah, we
And
got
y'all
that
had went
straight.
through and whittled it down to what was
Yeah.
important.
Yes, we did. We about fell out of chairs when they gave us that number, so we went back and did some readjustments.
But I also want to tell you, this superintendent and previous superintendents, all the way back to the Ray Gaines days when we built all of this stuff. What I can say is that we've been very fortunate with the folks that we've had in our administrators, in our administration, and looking at our financials. And if you look at our budget and you look at where we are today, when it comes to doing these type things, if we were sitting here and pretty much living from paycheck to paycheck and paying bills and expenses, this would cost us twice as much with the cost of the bonds. So we got a good bond rating because of the financials and where the schools are today. And am I right in that? That does go a long way. And hopefully in the future, it's just like to do with your home, and he alluded to it today about when rates change and you have opportunity to refinance, and you can go back and revisit the bonds and give back to the taxpayers. And you and I were talking in the hall, how many years has it been since we really had much of anything as far as debt service?
It wasn't until 2 years ago, debt service millage essentially with the sales tax credit had been zero.
And there's a lot of folks in our community don't even realize that the money you go spend over in Columbiana and that penny sales tax, that they're getting credit on their tax bill for. They don't realize it.
I'm sorry, I thought it was.
Okay, I just have a question. How much growing room do we have with this new layout as far as student population?
Very good question. Are we growing? Yes. So we're growing 100 students a year now. This will allow room to grow for several years. Right now at this school, we have classrooms for all kids. They're not just the best spaces. Some like I talked about, a pseudo/office needs to be bigger. But we're going to add 6 classrooms here to this building. That's going to give ample space. Even in our high school, when this district sees growth, usually that growth is scattered amongst all grades, K through 12. So for example, let's say in the next 20 years, we grew by, let's say next 20, we grew by 400 kids. 400 kids. Well, they're not all going to be at the high school. They're going to be scattered throughout the building, so it may be 100 of them may be at that particular school. For us to outgrow this facility that we designed, either facility, it would take several years. And one of the things that the architects have done, if you look back at the kind of the layout, is to be able to plan if it gets to a point where you can add on to the end here. This is why these core spaces, media center and the cafeteria are built for 800, because it's more difficult to add on to those spaces. So if there was a time where we needed to do that, there's a plan for it. But that would be, probably when these bonds are paid off. Our plan is to get everything we can to adjust our safety, to adjust our student needs, to adjust growth, and not have to come back anytime soon. Good question, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I just have 2 points really to make. The first one is, I was just thinking about the facilities, and absolutely, I'm super excited for all the great things that are going on within our district. But whenever we talk about attracting and retaining talent teachers to come into our district and stay, it really does make a difference when we've got a nice facility for them to work in. And we do a great job taking care of what we have, but you know, how many top performing teachers are going to want to come and work at that new high school or work at the refurbished primary school?
That's a good point. I know you said you had two. I just want to piggyback on this one. Right now, it's a teacher's market. I can tell you, there's a shortage. So I remember when I was a young principal, I'd call somebody, offer them a job, and they'd take it, and I'd be excited. Well, now, you call them off a job, they want to quiz you. They want to know why this is the best location, and then also say, I want to come tour your school. Well, in most of our schools, that's not a problem. But if that teacher's teaching science, which is a critical needs area, and we take them to our science labs, and there's some courses that's, well, we won't be able to teach this particular AP course or this college course because we don't have the facilities to accommodate it. That's not going to help us attract teachers, and it's not going to help us attract students. I do believe we build it, and they will come. I'm sorry, yes,
No,
sir.
that's okay. And my other point is just, I absolutely, you know, all this is for the students and the legacy of the future, you know, of this community, or leaving a legacy for the future of this community. But I also, I can't but help focus on the impact that's going to have to the business community, because the more people are attracted to this area and might would come to our schools, it's going to help us from an economic development perspective as well. You know, we'll have more people, potentially more qualified people available for industry, because we hope that someday a nice, you know, company is going to come in and build at the industrial park we have, you know. So I think it's just, you know, this is just a piece that's going to feed and fuel the future growth of our community.
Well, there's a statistic out there from the county that had done from this side of Gilbert, from Lexington to the Saluda County line. By 2040, there will be 100,000 people moving this way. And they don't build a quarry to take the rock a long way. So the people that did that quarry knew something's coming because they don't want to haul that rock a long way when development comes. So that was one of the other things.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time. I thank you for coming. I'll stick around a few minutes. We'll look at the pictures or ask additional questions. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. You have a good evening.